Hi everyone and welcome to today's Chrissy B Show. And we are the UK's only TV programme that's dedicated to your mental health, well-being and success. Today we're focusing on feelings of loneliness and isolation, which can often crop up around the festive period. And here to discuss this with me today are Chris Curtis, who survived throat cancer and set up the charity The Swallows to help provide information and support to those affected by head and neck cancer. Also joining us will be Dr Rob Hicks, who'll be answering all your medical questions later on, as well as our resident psychologist Dr Audrey Tang, who'll be addressing the isolating feelings we can have as a result of illness or disease. According to a study published by the Office for National Statistics, Britain is the loneliest country in Europe. Whilst as a nation we fare well on economic measures and safety, our weak neighbourhood ties take their toll on our mental health. And with the NHS also claiming that loneliness is as big a killer as obesity and as dangerous as heavy smoking, it's clearly an issue of vital importance. So let's read a few of your tweets out there regarding loneliness. Suresh says, loneliness changes you more than time. Daniel says, friends can't solve your loneliness, but they can definitely make you feel less lonely. Marissa echoes many people's thoughts on social media, saying, Facebook makes me feel old, lonely and unaccomplished. Handika says, despite being in the crowd, someone will feel lonely without a love. And Renee says, I get extremely depressed during the holidays, especially during Christmas. I just feel even more alone and isolated. Well, some very common themes there, and here to discuss the effects that feeling lonely and isolated can have on our mental health and well-being is Dr Audrey Tang. Welcome to the show, Audrey.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
It's lovely to have you on. So loneliness is a big, as we heard in the intro there, it's a really big deal, isn't it? Especially in Europe.
It is, apparently. And it's especially now. Richard Wathenau wrote a wonderful book called Learning to Care, and what he said, and this was actually true in the 80s, let alone now, back in, sort of 2016, he said now people are doing a lot of project work, they're not in one place for more than about 2 years, so even children learn not to make friends because they know that they're going to be moving on. And that's one of the problems. When life is a little bit inconsistent, and because you do have to go where the job takes you because it's not so much a job for life anymore, it is easy to kind of make the superficial friendships but not have the depth of friendship which stops us feeling so lonely.
And also there is, even though maybe you're surrounded by people, like in families as well, you can still end up feeling quite lonely, can't you?
That's one of the hardest things, and you find a lot of people who seem to be surrounded by people all the time will complain of feeling lonely. And it's the idea that sometimes we may confuse affection with attention, and attention can give us immediate gratification. There's lots of people around us, people are saying, I don't know, how pretty we are or how great and how fun we are, but because that doesn't last much longer than the event or the party or whatever it is, suddenly you're left on your own and you're thinking, actually, I don't know how to feel anymore. And that's another difficulty, and that's where social media has also caused us a few more problems, because suddenly people are saying, oh, I've got 450 friends on Facebook, but the word friend is to be taken a bit loosely. So yeah, it's a tricky one.
What does loneliness do to a person's mental health?
It's a problem because on the one hand, it can actually start making you feel afraid of going back out to see people, because if you spend enough time on your own, you start getting very used to your own company, and then you start feeling quite almost comfortable being inside. And then when someone says, can you come out today, you kind of think, oh, actually, I don't know how, or I might make a fool of myself. So that can be a problem. Also, it can lead to strategies and negative strategies. So because we're feeling lonely, we might go out and look for attention, and that can lead to very unhealthy behaviours as well, which can in turn be damaging to our mental health. It's a researcher called Schutz who, again in the 50s this is, so going back even further, said that people need interpersonal relationships almost as much as we need food and water in order to thrive. He did say, however, that some people need lots and lots of social contact to feel really happy. And you sort of think of those like hothouse lilies, you know, they need a lot of love and attention and care. Some people thrive just as happily in sort of quite sparse conditions, like the cactus in the desert, but they still flower. Either way, however, we do still need interpersonal relationships.
Definitely. And in terms of, obviously, we're going to talk about person being ill and, you know, going through some kind of disease and the loneliness that they feel. Can you tell us a bit about that as well?
One of the hardest things I feel is because people don't know how to react. So when you say if you're suffering from something, and it can be a horrible, whatever it is. When my partner was telling people that he had Hodgkin's lymphoma, you had that moment where everyone sort of went, oh, I don't know what to say now. I mean, he's in remission now and it's all wonderful. And actually, when people were able to say to us, I don't know what to say to you, but if you need any help, just ask. That was a lot easier. That made it more comfortable to be able to say, okay, could you just run to the shops or could you do this? So I think sometimes it's a case of saying to somebody, well, what would you like me to do? And so it's our reaction that can cause a problem. The other thing is somebody who's ill may also feel, oh, I don't want to be a burden on people. I don't want to spoil someone's fun. And that's a real shame as well. And there's a lovely little Facebook meme going around at the moment with Eeyore, and it's about Eeyore, of course, who's our depressed donkey. And he's lonely, and everyone knows he's lonely, but all his friends still ask him out anyway. And that's really important. It's really important that if you know someone's going through something, don't stop talking to them, but be mindful of the fact that they may not feel up to going out.
Okay. What could a person that feels lonely do to help themselves, though, Audrey?
Well, actually, this is where social media can be very, very helpful. There's a lot of things advertised on social media now. There's social groups, there's just outings with friends, not necessarily dating sites or anything like that. But you get to know what's out there. You can join groups. One surprising group of lonely people is actually new mothers, because they're with the baby the whole time, but they don't necessarily have the time to go out with their friends, or because their partner's the one who's often working, they're too tired when they come back. But there's a lot of social groups there, sort of mums groups, where if you look on Facebook, you can actually see, oh, they're meeting in my area. I'm actually going to go out and see what's going on.
That's a good idea.
But the main thing is, don't feel you have to rush into anything. Don't think, oh my goodness, I need to go out and find my next best friend. You don't. Just take it slowly and see what there is out there. If you don't like somewhere, don't go back to it. It's absolutely fine.
No pressure.
No, exactly.
Just go with the flow. Audrey, thank you so much, and we'll see you again very soon.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you.
All right, guys, so just before the break, here's Pax Brown with some news for us.
Thank you very much, Chrissy. Loneliness and isolation, they're the sort of things that nobody wants to live through, especially if they're a regular thing. Now, you've probably heard about this before. The elderly are becoming lonelier and lonelier, and the Scotsman recently addressed the issue on its website, talking about how the loneliness and isolation of the elderly is actually an abstract issue, very difficult to identify. New research from JAMA Psychiatry even suggests that there is a link between Alzheimer's disease and loneliness and isolation of the elderly. Scotland has in fact pledged to develop a national strategy to really tackle this issue. Since loneliness and isolation can be as bad as smoking up to 15 cigarettes per day, it's perhaps time we start thinking about the problem in England too. There is, however, a very helpful phone service for lonely or isolated older people. Silverline is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, all across the UK. It even offers a pen pal scheme and connects volunteers with the elderly based on their shared interests. Isn't that just great? And back to Scotland now. What have they already done that we can learn from them? Well, an initial conference completely dedicated to tackling loneliness and isolation and the issues that come with it has already taken place in Edinburgh. Part of the event involved presenting official strategy proposals to the government. But it's not just the aging population. In fact, loneliness and isolation is a trend amongst mothers as well, especially in the early years of motherhood. Connecting to others in these situations is as difficult as it is important for the mental health and well-being of mothers. And the even younger generations aren't exempt from loneliness and isolation either. New technologies and especially social media platforms are the leading cause for loneliness and depression amongst young people. A 2014 study has even proven that 18 to 24-year-olds are a shocking 4 times more likely to feel lonely than those aged 70 and above. Luckily, a new app has recently been unveiled. It's called Huggles, and it's been launched by 2 London-based women who found it really difficult to make friends in the capital. One of the founders said, "I think when anyone comes from outside London and they come here for the first time to live, it's really lonely." So there you go, worth giving it a try if you're in a similar situation too. And as per usual, I like to end on a happy note. Croydon's Director of Public Health, Rachel Flowers, has recently issued a public statement which is really heartwarming. She says we should try and smile a little more often to the people we don't know. A smile can be contagious, and for people who are socially isolated and you can't always tell who they are, it can make such a difference. So there you go, guys. Smile more to strangers. It won't cost you anything, and it can truly make the world of a difference. That's all from me today, guys. Back to you, Chrissy.
Thank you very much, Pax. Well, after the break, I'll be joined by cancer survivor and founder of the Swallows charity, Chris Curtis, as well as Dr. Rob Hicks. Welcome back to the Chrissy B Show, everyone, the only TV show for your mental health. Now, today we're focusing on the feelings of loneliness and isolation. And not many people will understand those more than my next guest, Chris Curtis. Hello, Chris. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for inviting me.
And we also have our good doctor here, Dr. Rob Hicks, who will also be joining us later on in the show to answer all your medical questions. But you're here, first of all, Rob, to help us with Chris's interview here, because you do know each other quite well.
We do.
But we'll talk about that in just a second. So Chris, tell us, you did have throat cancer.
Yes.
And tell us, when did you actually first realise something was wrong? What were the signs?
I went to the Grand National and I had a lump on this side of the neck. And I've got pictures that actually show the lump, but I thought nothing of it. I just thought it was a swollen gland or tonsillitis. And I ended up starting to shave over the lump. And then when I got home, I spoke to the wife, and the wife said, "Well, you need to go to the doctors." And I just thought it would just be a lump and it'd be nothing. So I went to the doctors, and then within 5 days I was being told I had throat cancer. So
what was that like? What went through your mind?
The first thing that went through my mind was, I'm going to die. Because I've just been told I've got cancer. You don't hear throat cancer, you don't hear anything else, you just hear that big word cancer. And I thought I was going to die. And then my mind just went blank. It's like information overload. They throw all this stuff at you. And I can, right up to this day, the next 7 days, I can't remember a damn thing. All I can remember was being told, you've got cancer. As far as I was concerned, I'm going to die. And and then it's not nice to being told you've got cancer. So that was my lowest point, really, I think. But my mind was like a computer when you get a blue screen. All of a sudden, this information was like, I just couldn't take any more in. And I don't think I wanted to take any more in, so I just blanked it all out. And for the next 7 days, I can't remember anything.
So after those 7 days had passed, and then you sort of the reality started to sink in, what kind of things did you go through after that?
I was told about my treatment plan. My treatment plan meant having chemotherapy, radiotherapy, 2 neck dissections. When I got diagnosed, I was 22 stone, so I was a big lad. I enjoyed food, I enjoyed the odd pint. I'm never a big drinker, I've never smoked in my life, but I enjoyed food, so you don't get to 22 stone without enjoying food. So I was told I was going to have radiotherapy, I was going to have chemo, 2 neck dissections. So that was my next bit to understand what all that meant. I went for a mask fitting where they lay you on the bed, they put a bit of plastic over your face and you have a mask fitted. And then 2 days later I started my radiotherapy because my consultant told me I was a week away from being inoperable. If I'd have gone through another week, then it could have been terminal. The tumour at the back of the throat, where my main tumour was at the back of the throat, these 2 here were secondaries. So the tumour at the back of the throat was that big, it was about to suffocate me so that I couldn't breathe or eat. So he said another week and it would have been a completely different story. So they got me into treatment very, very quick. I had 36 days of radiotherapy where they literally burn the hell out of your neck every day of the week. I had 6
really
weeks of
painful,
chemotherapy. I had a peg fitted so that I could be fed by a peg. So for 3.5 years, I never ate or drink anything. I just was fed through my stomach through a peg.
What was that like, Chris? Like, obviously you said you liked food and like, you know, it was...
I mean, I lost 12 stone in weight, so it was one of the best diets I've ever had. I've tried to sell it on the internet, but no one wants to buy the cancer diet, unfortunately, otherwise I'll be a rich man. But the loneliness was horrendous.
Yeah.
You know, I was very active, we were very social, we used to go out with a lot of friends. I would eat I'd be fed in the front room and the family were in the kitchen, in the dining room eating. So I would be on 12-hour feeds, just sat at a chair like this, watching the TV. Then during the day, the wife would go to work, the kids would go out. So I was then sat in that room again for another 6-hour feed. And that my life was just feeding for anything up to 18 hours a day. And then radiotherapy, chemotherapy, 2 operations. The loneliness was the worst part of it.
How did you actually get through it then? Because it really sounds horrendous what you went through.
Sharon called it the cancer bubble. I didn't know I was depressed. I didn't know I was depressed. I didn't know that this cancer bubble existed. As far as I was concerned, it was just cancer. So what the hell does that all mean? But how did I get through it? I think I know I had a fantastic wife. However we stayed together, I don't know. She should have divorced me, I don't know how many times, because I wasn't nice to live with. So, but the loneliness is one of the worst parts. And when the family go up to sleep, you're still downstairs because you don't want to sleep. You just can't sleep. So many a time if I could have done, I would have just got in my car and drove my car against the wall. Wow. But then I'm not that brave. So I think about my family, I think about the kids upstairs, and I just think, you know what? I've got to get through this somehow. And I just kept going and going and going. And then Sharon got me to start my charity up. And that, I think, was my tipping point of deciding that I've got to accept what I've got and now I've got to get over it. And I think that was it. But
it sounds like your wife, Sharon, she's been a massive help to you, even getting you to go to the doctor in the first place, right?
Yeah, my wife is was very, very special and still is very, very special. Yeah. She doesn't take any recognition for getting me through it. We didn't go for carer's allowance. She never classed herself as a carer, which is another big issue, because she just said, well, I'm the wife, this is what I have to do. She had to go back to work because my income stopped. We didn't get any benefits because we had our own house, so we had savings, so you get no benefits. So she had to go back out to work. She deserves so much praise. Yeah. And she should be here really talking rather than me, but that's typical Sharon. She likes to just be in the background.
Oh, bless her. Well, do you want to give her a shout out?
But without her, I wouldn't be here today, generally. I'd either not dealt with the cancer, and I think as soon as you accept cancer, that's when you die. So I had to get over it. But many a time, like I said, I could have just drove my car on a wall and she stopped me. Wow. So she's a pretty special woman.
That's amazing. So, and how did you meet our Rob here?
Well, I met Rob on ITV. Michael Douglas came out and spoke about the HPV virus and that it was sexually transmitted, and the HPV virus is what I have. And I think ITV wanted to bring it down to the man in the street rather than these superstars that get it. So I was invited onto the programme just to talk about my story about HPV. And I met Rob, who supported me through that. And he's supported me ever since, really. So we've become very good friends just from
excellent. Actually, it's Rob that introduced us to you as well, because he said you had an amazing story. And
like I say, from the moment I got diagnosed cancer, I thought I was going to die. Now, I genuinely believe it was the best thing that ever happened to me, because it's took me on a journey now that I'd never been on before. And I'm so privileged to have got cancer now, because I've met some fantastic people like Rob and like a lot of other people. And without that journey, I'd have never met them.
Tell us about how you set up the charity as well, because it's called The Swallows.
Swallows.
And you've also written this book. You've got this, it's by obviously different people that have cancer. So it's head and neck cancer support. So, you've got that out there for people to get help and everything.
The thing with head and neck cancer is it tends to be male orientated, so 95% are males. It tends to be the older male, which then has the same problems I have. You're stuck at home, you're not doing anything. So what I wanted to do was give people hope that when they get diagnosed cancer, they can read something like that, and that book is all about positivity.
Yeah.
It's lots of positive stories in there. There's lots of information there that will help that person when they're really struggling, that they can obviously then get over it. But it's the first time a book has ever been written by patients for patients.
That's really lovely.
Which is a bit unusual. We also have our 24/7 line now. So again, when you're talking about depression and those lonely moments, we have a 24/7 support line that anyone can ring us 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's answered by a patient or a carer, and we're just there to support. Sid, who is in the book, Psycho Sid, I got a phone call from him. He was at the end of the pier waiting to commit suicide. He'd been told he'd got 3 months to live. 2.5 years later, he's still with us.
Amazing.
So, you know, that's why the Swallows is there, and that's why it'll always be there. It offers support and awareness for people with throat cancer and head and neck cancer.
What do you think of this amazing gentleman, Rob?
You've summed it up, Chris. I mean, you know, this Chris, you know, is an amazing gentleman. And what struck me when I met him for the first time was actually in healthcare, we think we're providing all the information along the journey, and actually we're not. We're not covering all the bases. And there are three things that struck me. One was that I think maybe we need to learn about giving information in a more appropriate way. So not, I've told you about this, I've told you about this, I've told you about this, because as Chris has said, people, you know, along the journey, it doesn't always go in. I think the other two things that were highlighted for me were actually the isolation and also the role of the carer, which is an enormous role, we know, for anybody who has physical or mental health problems. And you know, I'm a great advocate for carers, and I know, and these are people who do essentially an unpaid job. I call them the unpaid heroes of the NHS. And often they are in the background, and often they won't accept or acknowledge that they need help too. And I think this is one of the reasons why this book is very, very valuable, because it is talking not just about the individual who has a cancer, it's talking about the ripple effect of those around that person who need support as well. And you know, I've known Chris for a number of years now, and I've seen him go from having a support group to a major charity. You've just had your first national conference.
Wow.
Books out. You're about to start travelling the world, talking about your experience and raising awareness. You know, this is a true hero. Yeah, you are a true hero, and I won't have you say no about this, because you've taken on board what is probably the hardest challenge that anybody can do, and turned it around into a very positive way that will help millions. In time, it will help millions. What you've done. So you know, and I'm privileged to be known as, be called your friend.
Oh, that's very nice.
So nice.
But I don't class myself as a hero. I just trying to do something.
The thing is, you could have given up. You could have given, like you said, you could have given into it. But like Rob said, you turned it around. You're doing something to help so many other people. So
but I'm not a hero. What I'm trying to do is someone's going to be diagnosed next week that doesn't know they're going to be diagnosed. And what I want their journey to be, and it is a journey, is a better journey than I had. And I had a pretty good journey. But yeah, the health professions, if I had paid to go private, I couldn't have got better. The NHS are phenomenal while you're on that journey of treatment. The issue comes is all the support side and the outside side, and we have to address that. And if I can make someone's life, one person, then it's got to be worth it. And you know, next month I'm out to Spain, and I'm talking to 60 other patients in Spain. The journey around the world is the same. The issues around the world are the same. But people like yourself, to give us that exposure, and people like Rob, if one person listens, it's got to be worth it. And that's now my mission in life, is to make that person's journey a little bit different. And the hero I have is Sharon, my wife.
Oh, bless.
That's the hero as far as I'm concerned. So
Sharon, you are a heroine, definitely. Chris, thank you so much for speaking about this, and please do keep us updated on how everything's going.
Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
All right, and Rob, we're going to keep you because, as we said, later on Rob's going to be answering all your medical questions. So see you a bit later, Rob. All right, so after the break, I'll be joined by Crystal Knapp, who founded Reach Up magazine, which targets marginalised women, and we'll also be hearing your thoughts on loneliness and isolation in society with Pax Brown. So don't go away. Chrissy B, and my show is all about improving your mental health and being happy. Join me every Monday, Wednesday and Friday at 10 p.m. on my channel Sky 203. Visit chrissybshow.tv for more information and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Chrissy B Show. You can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Chrissy B Show and on our Facebook page, The Chrissy B Show. Welcome back to The Chrissy B Show, everyone, your TV program for everything mental health and well-being. So now I'm very happy to be joined by Crystal Knapp, who's kindly agreed to talk to us about her magazine, Reach Up. Hello, Crystal.
Hello, Chrissy. It's great to be here.
It's lovely to have you on the show. So, Crystal, tell us about Reach Up magazine and how it all started.
Well, Reach Up began when I was in the inner city. I worked and lived there for 9 years, and I was in the homes of the ladies. But it occurred to me that all those years I'd been in the stores and the bodegas, as we called it in New York, there was never a magazine for them. However, I had magazines that I enjoyed, and I'd get one tip or two, and I thought it was great. You know, it's how you learn and grow. When I realized there was nothing for them, I thought, well, that's not fair. And that's began the beginning of thinking about what could I do since I had that background.
Okay. And tell us about some of the things that these women were going through, and you felt the need that you wanted to help them in some way.
Oh, my goodness. There's so much crowding in the apartments. There would be 3 families, usually by just with a mother and then her sisters with her kids or aunts. And so there's just that crowding. There's somewhat of a depression there because they don't feel like they're really going to get out of it. So they don't really do much to get out of it. And then I think that's also what you notice is when you don't have the tips of how to take care of things, you don't think of changing your circumstances.
Okay. And the actual name for the magazine, Reach Up, why that particular name?
Well, I have it here. The name Reach Up is because I felt that to do anything, you have to actually reach for it. You can't have it. It's not entitlement. It's not given to you. There's got to be some effort. Yes. And so the reach up sometimes is I've got to go for it. It can also be a faith thing that I need. As they say in 7 steps, I need a higher power, or as I believe in God. There is that little unknown something that really helps women go to the next level.
I mean, I love the name of the magazine, actually. It's what we talk about on this program as well, the viewers at home, because we do say to you that if you are going through any kind of problem, you do need to do something as well for yourself, even if all you can do is ask someone for help or go to your doctor or do something. But as long as you actually reach out and do something for yourself to get that help, that's when everything starts, and that's when things can start to change in your life. So definitely, I love the title of your magazine.
We're on the same level on that.
So what's been the impact, Crystal, of this magazine? How is it helping now? Have you had some feedback? How's it going?
We do have feedback. A lot of the first person stories actually get a lot of traction with the women. I remember there was one story of a woman who she had 4 children by 4 different fathers. But she really wanted to do something with her life, and she wanted to get her GED, which is the United States equivalent of your high school diploma, and then go on. Well, because of all these kids, I mean, she didn't achieve that very quickly. But eventually she did. And she went on and became an RN, a nurse.
Amazing.
Well, it was so interesting. Right after that article was published, one lady told me that in her jail ministry, so many of the inmates said, I want to get my GED. I want to do this. Well, when they see that somebody else really went through the hard times, but they persisted, they get hope that they can do it too.
Amazing. I mean, that must make you so happy hearing that as well, and all your hard work, like bringing these results.
It does.
Now, Crystal, something that we're speaking about on today's program as well is loneliness, and I imagine that's what a lot of these women go through, because going through so many problems, maybe not having someone to speak to, and they do feel quite lonely, or feel like like a lot we've said to our viewers as well, like you're the only person that's going through this kind of issue. But then having a magazine such as yours takes away some of that loneliness for people.
That is certainly my hope, and I really appreciate how you understand that, because as I was talking to one of my friends who's also a board member and had worked in the inner city herself, you can be lonely in a city. You can be lonely when you have tons of people around because you think your situation is unique to you, or perhaps you're afraid to talk about it. Yeah. But if it's in a magazine and someone else talks about it, suddenly you realize, wait a minute, that gives me a voice. You begin to have definition. And we always try with our articles to give them tips how to make the next step. So we really do want to help them identify some of their problems and then take a next step of how to get out of it, or how to go into change. Amazing. And just a final question, Crystal, where do you see the future? What's your vision for the magazine? If our funding comes through, I got to tell you, there are 24 million women in the United States alone that live at or below the line of poverty. Wow. And there is no voice in the printed world for them. I would like Reach Up to go there. It is already available online for use in other countries, but so I've got it in Spanish. I just talked to a gentleman yesterday that would love to translate and publish it in Urdu for Pakistan. Great. Yeah. I don't know where it will go. Wherever it is, I know it's going to be very high, which is wonderful. I wanted to. Crystal, thank you so much for speaking to us today. I think you're doing an amazing job. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you. And we'll speak soon, hopefully. Okay. So there you go, guys. Someone else doing something great for somebody else. I think it's really amazing having a magazine like that. And it's true, when you see other people are going through the same or similar situation as you are, it does actually give you inspiration. It helps you to keep fighting for something better. All right, guys, so now before we go to break, let's catch up with Pax Brown, who has been out on the streets of London again to get your opinions.
Hi guys, we're in Leicester Square today and we're going to find out what people think about loneliness and isolation. Have you ever felt, or know someone who's ever felt lonely or isolated?
Yes. Yeah. I haven't, no, I have.
And would you say loneliness and isolation go hand in hand?
I don't know, because lonely is like when you feel on your own, but isolated is like when you're pushed away, I'd say.
Not necessarily. I think you can feel lonely and want to do something about it, and kind of reach out and try to go out and mingle with people to get over it. Isolation is a little different, I think.
How have you or someone else ever dealt with this problem? What's the secret, basically?
Distractions, just get on with life, work, family, friends.
Just to kind of feel it and go through it and recognize it and then try to work out what to do about it.
Awesome. And would you say there should be more help out there for people who experience this kind of thing?
Yes, I think so. I mean, I'm from a part of California that has a lot of help, so when my family members needed assistance, we were able to get it through the social services and the city government.
Yes, I definitely do think that, because I think something that probably goes unnoticed as not compared to poverty or something like that.
I think there's a lot of helplines that are helpful, but I don't think it's promoted enough that it should be. So. Yeah, I think there should be like support groups where everyone else feels isolated or lonely can go, and they all kind of get to know each other.
Loneliness and isolation, is it a problem more of the young or the elderly, do you think?
I don't think either age group has a monopoly on it. I think you can feel bullied and not part of a group, and you can feel alone at old age also.
Everyone, because younger generation could be going through exams, going through family problems, breakups, but older generation could even be like losing a family member, divorce, money problems, work. Everyone.
I think definitely younger as well, because like feel isolated because of like everyone's in this sort of like age where brands and stuff are quite important. Sometimes if you're not better than the same person, they'll kind of push you away.
I would try to reach out to services that are available to you. I would try to find family members. I would try to break your routine, and I would try to be as aware of what is happening to you as you possibly can be.
Don't feel as though you're alone. There's always someone who will help.
Thank you very much to Pax and to the public. Well, after the break, do not go away because we have our Doctor's Answers segment with Dr. Rob Hicks. So if you have a medical question, anything at all, you can email us on info@chrissybshow.tv and Rob will be very happy to answer all your questions. So don't go away. Welcome back to the Chrissy B Show, everyone. And now it's time for our Doctor's Answers session with Dr. Rob Hicks. Hello, Rob, again.
Hi, how are you?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
Oh, fabulous, actually, yeah.
All right, so we heard Chris earlier, so, you know, did a fabulous job telling us his story. But now it's time for you to help the viewers at home even further by answering their questions. So I'm going to get stuck straight in, Rob, because we've got quite a few to get through today. Right, the first one says, hi, I want to ask how to get even eyes. I have ptosis, I'm 21 and my GP says there's surgery, but there's more risk now that I'm an adult and I'm scared to have surgery as I've had ops go wrong before. So is there a non-surgical treatment for my droopy eyelid?
Well, the simple answer is the best course of action to correct that is actually surgery. Okay. There are some ways of doing it without surgery. So some people might suggest using tape to hold the eyelid up. Some people may suggest using particular types of cream to try and sort of tighten the skin, but the scientific evidence behind these is not very strong, and indeed whether they work or not is hotly debated. So surgery is the most appropriate way of resolving this problem for you. What I would suggest is that you have a chat with, have a consultation with an eye surgeon who I'm sure will be able to put your mind at rest as far as the risks are concerned, and also the potential benefits, because it's clearly affecting you and you'd like the problem solved. And it may be that with previous operations when you've had problems, those are not problems that are going to happen with or could happen with this sort of surgery for the eyelids. So I would think more optimistically, quite honestly, get your GP to refer you to an eye surgeon and at least explore the opportunities.
Okay, thank you, Rob. Next question. My 7-year-old, who used to be so loving, has all of a sudden started calling me names. I try not to seem shocked or hurt by when he does this, in case he does it even more. I've tried speaking to him calmly to say that calling mummy those words aren't nice, but to be honest, I don't think he actually knows what he is saying. One of the things he calls me is a fat B, sorry, I'm not going to read out the word, when I'm actually very slim. I'm hoping this is just a phase, but I'm really worried. What can I do?
Well, this is
distressing.
This is hugely distressing, isn't it? I mean, there's actually two problems here. There's the problem that mum is describing, of the 7-year-old being offensive and abusive, verbally abusive. Mm-hmm. But there's also the problem that she must be suffering going through this, because she must be not just hurting really badly, but she must be terrified to take her child to the playground or to the shops or to school for fear that her child's going to say something which is going to potentially offend those around them as well. My question to you really is, has anything changed within your son's environment? So, has there been the arrival of a new baby? Have you moved home? Have you got a new partner? Have you separated from your partner? Has something happened at school? I would be wanting to explore what might have triggered this in the first place. And the way that you can find out these details is actually, ask the teacher, ask friends' parents as well, whether your child behaves like this when he's on play dates, for example, or playing with his friends. I think the other thing to think about is this just happening at home? is it just you that's on the receiving end, or is it other people, and is it happening at school as well? So, try and narrow it down, because when you go and see a GP, and I would urge you to go and see your doctor about this, these are the questions that he or she's going to ask to try and figure out what's going on. There are solutions. Most of these problems can be overcome. It may need the help of a psychologist, or it may actually be that there's an underlying medical condition that's actually caused him to start behaving in this way. So I would urge you to seek the advice of your GP soon, much sooner than later, and also seek advice on some help for you, because this is not going to be pleasant for you, as you've expressed in your email to us. And it's important that you are supported so that you're in a position to fully support your son getting through this.
Oh, lovely. Okay, next question, Rob. For about 2 to 3 days now, whenever I go to the toilet to pee, at the end I have a slightly painful sensation. It's hard to describe, it's more uncomfortable than burning, but still hurts. I haven't had any bleeding, but my urine has been fairly clear. When I woke up this morning, my lower back was hurting on the right when I was walking or moved and twisted my body. Do I have a kidney or bladder infection? Is there anything I should do?
Well, is there anything you should do? Yes, you should get yourself checked up with your doctor, as soon as possible. It could be an infection in the bladder, it could be in the kidneys, and that, that's a possibility that can be tested for. It may actually be that the problem is a skin irritation around the genital area. So it's actually when the urine comes out, which can be quite acidic, that it irritates the skin, and that's what's giving you that discomfort. So it could be something like eczema, or it could be something like thrush, the yeast infection. The other thing to think about is whether you might have been exposed to a sexually transmitted infection, because, for example, chlamydia is an infection that can cause this sort of symptom as well. So the bottom line is that you need to get this checked out, particularly if you've got a fever or you're getting pain in your loins. You do so sooner rather than later, because it might be that then actually the infection's in the kidneys rather than just in the bladder or around the skin area. But in the meantime, drink lots of liquid, and I would say try and go and pee every hour, whether you feel you need to or not, so you're actually flushing the whole system through.
Okay, great advice. Next question. I have a lot of small red and flesh-coloured bumps on the backs of my arms. Is this a rash? It doesn't hurt but looks weird. Should I see a dermatologist?
I would say the first place to go is your GP before a dermatologist. I mean, it might be something as simple as skin tags, and that these can be flesh coloured, but they can become reddened if they're irritated. Or it can be a condition called keratosis pilaris, which essentially means that the skin looks like it's consistently got goosebumps, or people sometimes call it like chicken skin, because of it's how it looks. Generally, if it is this condition, it is harmless. It's nothing that you've done wrong, and the way to overcome it is to use a non-soap cleanser, so something like aqueous cream, for example, which is a very, very good way of cleansing the skin but without drying it out or irritating it. Make sure that you bath or shower or wash with lukewarm water rather than hot water. Gently, and I stress gently, exfoliate the skin. Don't go picking at these areas, because you could introduce infection or scar the skin if you do that. And make sure that you moisturise on a regular basis. But the first thing to do is to ask your doctor to look at the skin to make the correct diagnosis, and then of course you can be advised on what you can do about it.
Okay, next question. I think I strained my neck whilst lifting weights. My neck is really tight. How do I get my muscles to relax without taking medication?
Well, that's a very good question, isn't it? Because many people would just jump for the medicines, but many people also now want the more natural approach. So I would suggest that you embark on some physiotherapy, for example, or have some massage, or maybe use some cold or heat treatment on the neck muscles. And that should solve the problem over the course of a number of days. I would urge you, though, if you're getting what we call nervous system symptoms like tingling or numbness in your hands or in your arms, which might indicate that there's actually some damage and pressure on the nerves, that you get that checked out. But generally, people do strain these muscles when they're perhaps over-exercising or they haven't warmed up enough. And what we say, non-medical treatments, like we've discussed, can be very, very valuable.
And should they lay off the weights for a while as well, do you think?
I think so. I think my philosophy is that you go back to doing the exercise that caused the problem once you can actually do that movement without any pain, and you can do it as easily. If it's one arm, then you can do it as easily with that arm as you can with the arm that wasn't injured.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Next question. I'm 25 years old, and whenever I'm out of my house in the sun, I start to scratch my body for some reason. Sometimes even when I put the radiator on in my house. Is there something serious going on?
That's interesting. Mm-hmm. That's very interesting, because one of the common reasons for that sort of symptom is called photodermatitis, which basically means the skin becomes inflamed and irritated in response to UV light, so to sunlight, and it gets very, very itchy, and it can become very uncomfortable. The other thing that we commonly see that causes these symptoms is simply that the skin is too dry. And sometimes in warm weather, or if you're in a warm house with the radiator, then the skin becomes dried out, and dry skin gets itchy, it gets scratched, and it gets further irritated. It may be that actually you've got eczema or psoriasis, which again in the warmth can actually become itchy. So I think although it's going to be tricky maybe to show your GP the rash, you should have a consultation with your GP, and ideally, if you can get an appointment, or maybe they do a walk-in appointment system, so when you do get the irritation, you can actually show the doctor, because it's much easier to show them. If not, take a picture with your smartphone or with a camera and take it in, so that actually there's a visual example of what it's like. It makes it much easier for us to diagnose.
Okay, Rob, I think, well, let's try and get through one more at least. We do have one after that, but I don't know if we've got time for it. But anyway, are varicose veins associated with any serious health condition? I'm in my late 30s and have noticed a couple appearing on my legs.
Varicose veins, very, very common, generally not associated with serious health problems. For most people, the major problem is people don't like the way they look, so they become very self-conscious about them. But these veins can actually ache and feel a bit sore. If the varicose veins are associated with actual vein damage, then there is a slightly increased risk of somebody suffering what we call a DVT, a deep vein thrombosis, a blood clot. But generally speaking, keep yourself moving around, don't stand too still for too long, and you should be able to keep them at bay and prevent them from getting any worse.
Rob, we have got time for this one, and this is a bit of a strange one, but this person says, I seem to love the pain of mouth ulcers. I like biting them and the pain. Why am I weird? Is there any explanation?
Well, I would say, I don't like people to think that they're weird. I think, they might be unique.
Yes, you're very unique.
And, everybody has their own preferences, and this is clearly yours. My concern would be that if you are biting a mouth ulcer, or indeed creating a mouth ulcer by biting, then you're risking damaging the gums, you're risking introducing infection, particularly if you're touching it, and you're risking scarring. Bottom line is, you might want to try and find another way of achieving the same level of pleasure. If you are going to continue doing this, and you're worried that it's a problem, then have a word with maybe a psychologist to actually explore why you're doing it, and again to find different ways of dealing with the urge to do this.
Yeah, I mean, we did tell everybody at home that you can ask absolutely any question that you like. Don't feel like it's embarrassing, because actually we don't read out any names on this segment at all, so you can remain completely anonymous. Well, we have run out of time, Rob. Thank you so much again for answering our viewers' questions.
Well, thank you to everybody for the questions. Can't do it without them.
Right, yeah, definitely. Yeah. And we'll see you again next week.
Will indeed.
Thank you. All right, guys, so it's time to go, but if you have any comments about the programme, if there's a particular topic that you'd like to see covered on this programme, or if you have a story that you would like to share to help inspire others, please do get in touch with us. You can email us on info@chrissybshow.tv. You can also tweet us at Chrissy B Show, or leave a message on our Facebook page, The Chrissy B Show. And until next time, bye-bye for now.
Okay, my experience on the show today was very, very good. I enjoyed, obviously, the questions that was asked me. I enjoyed the hospitality the show showed me. And I thought that the way the interview went, I enjoyed it very, very much.
You've probably heard it before. The elderly are getting lonelier and lonelier. And the Scotsman has recently reported it on its website, saying that the elderly are becoming lonelier and, oh my God. Back to Scotland now. What have they already done that we can learn from them? Basically, so what has Scotland already done that we can learn from them? An initial case, a 2014 study has even proven that 18 to 24-year-olds are shocking